me and Joel used to like going and doing a gig, getting fucked up, and so we bonded quite naturally.
In a real kind of lead singer, lead guitarist kind of way.
But
Killa Kela Podcast. KillaKelaOfficial.com.
THTC, the UK's leading ethical streetwear label. Organically grown and ethically built garments from hemp, organic cotton and other sustainable materials. 2019 is their 20th anniversary year. Join me with THTC as a Killa Kela Podcast sponsor celebrating music, social activism, hemp and street culture. THTC, eco-fashion redefined since 1999. Beatbox created.
Killa Kela.
And we're here to talk about world music and street culture.
Killa Kela Podcast.
Hold tight to our people's graffiti kings. Ladies and gentlemen. For those of you on there. Yeah, that's the one right there.
Okay. I'll try not to look at it. Keep me head down.
In a real DJ
Down
way.
like that.
Well, for those of you that aren't looking at the moment and are listening, that silky voice is the man that you've been requesting for from the turntablist Scratch production world. World champion of so many degrees and an absolute hero of mine. It's my old crew partner. Well, for a period of maybe like 8 months.
We'll get on to that.
Tony Vegas,
We'll get on to that.
Scratch Perverts. How are
Hello,
you?
mate. I'm good, you?
Yeah, good.
Nice to be here.
And you know, you have been requested.
Have I really?
Yeah, you really have.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's lonely people out there.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a lot of it is. I think because I've had certain people on, they just expecting, we'll get him, you know,
Yeah.
as if it's not a thing. But I know.
Well, it's good to be here. Nice to be here. Nice to be in your gaff.
Central London, as central as we need to be, I might add. Subscribe, like, share.
Central took me ages to get here, mate.
We all hey, this is a big city, man.
It is a
And we hide in the undergrowths. We're you know, this is some hip hop shit. So, well, today is particularly legacy, brother, legacy.
Yeah, I guess not so much. I never really look at it as me, but the people that I, worked with, continued to work with. I think it was a joint effort, and at every stage, really. It's nice that we're able, myself and Joel, to continue working. Not as much as it was, but we take work where it comes. We always try to do a good show whenever we get to where we're getting to. So it is. A lot of time has gone, and I was thinking it the other day.
You were thinking I should just come on a podcast and just let it all go.
Confess how old I am. Yeah. It does. It's been a long time, and certainly the last few, 3, 4, 5 years, work-wise, has been slower. But I know it's probably the same for a lot of people. I think we represent a time. And an era certainly in music in this country that is where it was. Do you know what I mean? It's a long time ago, and I think of a lot of the people we used to work with. I don't necessarily see their names around as much anymore, but we're talking 20 years ago. It's a long time.
You've got the persona, and I think I do as well, ladies and gentlemen, of this ageist kind of. You look exactly how you always have.
I think it's because we knew each other 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think
that's where we're lying here.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I've. I said that to someone recently. I said that I don't feel. I'm getting fatter, but facially, I didn't feel like I'd aged very much. I said I didn't have any lines on my face, and he's like, "No, it's not that. It's the drop." And I'm like, fuck.
Ooh,
Now when I got indoors, I kind of looked at myself in the mirror and noticed everything on my head is kind of falling away a little bit. And I thought, shit, how'd you get rid of it? So I'm just going to let it fall. But,
just let it, but it is genetics, isn't it?
I think it's also, even though we worked really hard at what we did, with hindsight, I can't say I've worked a day in the last 25 years.
Isn't that awesome to say?
But I think there is that. Like, I look at people that have grafted in order to make ends meet, and there is a difference. There's a difference. I wake up in the morning, turn my computer on, listen to music, try to work on music. Back in the day, you'd wake up, you'd turn your equipment on, you'd practice the whole day. But you were engaging in this thing that was a passion of yours, and you were doing it 8-10 hours a day. You weren't going out and working under some arsehole somewhere in a job that you hated with a journey to get to work that you loathed, that kept you awake at night. There was none of that. And we were quite blessed from early that, I think I said it to you before when we met a month or so ago, that the turntable thing had the spotlight shone right on it at the time that we broke through, and I think our breaking through was a result of the hard work of many other people. People that I still revere as utter heroes, from Pickles, Beat Junkies, X-Men. So the job had already been done. Or, I mean, it was all,
It was almost like, and there's a few comparables even now, but definitely of this time when turntable just broke through. I remember a catalogue of like minor shows where American DJs like the Scratch Pickles would come over and absolutely turn out, and then they would go home, but there was still this hunger for it. And I think this is where the likes of Killa Kela and Scratch Perverts capitalise. Razel would come in and then he'd dust off, and it's like, well, hold on, maybe I can carry on where the dust is laying here and just, you know.
I think there was that, and we had a great record store culture back then. So we had a meeting place, and I realised that in the 80s when I used to go. I started working in '88, so when I used to buy records every single day. I'd go to the record stores every day, and you go from one store to another in your lunch, and you'd be seeing similar people doing something similar with their lunch break.
All bopping around.
Hitting the different stores. So and so's got this, and then you'd run around there to see if you can get it. And there was this great communication, and it was just a given. And I think that part of West London and then Covent Garden, Charing Cross, it was obviously the hub of communication for music and dance and everything hip hop related at that time. And for years, way before my time, do you know what I mean? You speak to people that could tell you a lot more about Covent Garden and Charing Cross arches and stuff than I could, or Spats on. All these places were going. So there was we communicated all within a kind of square mile, really. And the record stores were, that was how you ran around, and that's where you met. I met everybody that way. Pretty much everybody that I know, we all met that way. But it was a self-sufficient thing. It was a living organism, and it was, when me and Pete started Deal Real, I remember the chaos of the whole thing, because we were two fairly chaotic people at that time in our lives. Managed to pull it together. It took some begging, borrowing and stealing to do it. But the environment that we created within that store, which was chaos, and the customers didn't really see that. That was our burden. That's what we had to deal with from a business point of view. But punters loved it. So you come into the shop, you're gonna get the records that you want, and you're probably gonna have a couple of pints at the same time. And
I remember
but it was that thing. I hate it. Everybody knows this is a bugbear of mine. Deal Real Records started in 1997.
Right.
Didn't start in 2000 on Carnaby Street. That didn't happen, and I'm not taking anything away from that, but I've seen things online recently where the history of something is obviously being reported by somebody that wasn't there, isn't furnished with the right information. Do you know what I mean? And the reason it's important starting Deal Real Records with Pete is more important than the DJing thing, because somebody's opinion of me as a DJ is up to them. That's up to them.
Subjectively,
I did the competitions I did and stuff like that, but a record store thing was such a big part of my life, working in Bongo before and Soul Jazz before.
It's because you're giving to the public.
Yeah, to have those years taken away by somebody who clearly weren't there and is a bigger public voice than mine and writes for this magazine or for that magazine, this really becomes gospel, because people they believe what they read.
Can we elaborate on who we're talking about?
I think it was Complex Magazine. I think somebody pulled me up on it, and then... And I've read other things. I've read other things since where it's Deal Real Records, the brainchild of such and such, and it's like, man.
Oh, we're putting this in the motherfucking bed then.
But the thing is, it wasn't the brainchild of anything. I'd lost my job in Mr. Bongo because I was an arsehole, and I should have lost my job, really. I didn't know what else to do. Pete was around the corner in handspun. So when me and Pete, we knocked about each
Big up
other
Pete
for a
as
little
well.
bit. Big
Wow.
up Pete. And we just said, right, well, I've got all these records. Let's you got all these records. Let's open this spot around the corner. So the idea that a record shop is certainly in those days a brainchild, it isn't that kind of a thing.
get you.
I didn't know what else to do with my life, so I had a bunch of records. Pete had a shop. Let's move out. Let's get together and move it around the corner. And so when you read, it's only on that really because my father helped build the shop. And, we had some good times in there,
Some great
important times,
yeah.
and so much so. I can't say, but we did, and it's important. As I say, you can think of me as a DJ what you want. You know what I mean? I know the competitions I entered. I know the ones I won and the ones I lost. And you can look at all of my routines and think that geezer sucks, and that's fine because it's your opinion.
Well,
but Soho was an important thing, and it was an important place because it was, as a kid, it was that place that I went to. I first went there with my mum and first bought records there. First started looking up to people there. First started recognising faces there. And it will always play a very important part, certainly from a London perspective, when it comes to the history of hip-hop in London.
How did you... I'm really fussed because, there's so much legacy to talk about here. And for those that you that really aren't up on DJing, scratch DJing, turntablism, like, Tony, as we're about to find out, is pivotal in what I believe the exporting of a new way of using the turntable as an instrument into Europe. Like, you, along with a handful of others, made that shit look like rock and roll. But where did it all fucking begin? Where?
I mean, I was a hip hop kid in the 80s, and we were initially Scratch Perverts was myself, was Theo.
Right.
And before it became anything, do you know what I mean? When a few of you got together, I remember Cam from Mr. Bongo was involved.
Really? No way.
But then then that shifted. I mean, Theo was obviously busy taking over the entire world at the time.
And bloody well good he did too.
And he did really well. But then, Joel was worked around the corner.
Yeah.
Paul First Rate was coming in. Paul knew Mr. Thing. And obviously we met yourself because you were coming into town.
It formed like a band, didn't it?
It did. I mean, the idea really was to compete. I mean, that was the bottom line, was to compete. So the way that you do that is, in my mind, to get the best people together. I met Neil +1 by chance at a gig in Scotland when he was 15, and he was better than me then. And the geezer tried to mug him off for like a score at the end of the night for travel. The promoter and Neil just weren't having any of it. And I remember thinking, oh shit.
Yeah, very much
Come down to London, mate. Come down to London,
totally.
you'll fit right in. So the idea was that it was to, and First Rate as an example. I mean, he was putting himself out there, and against everybody.
Yeah, he's just aggressive, like
put himself in spots, with people like Adam Pogo and that, and they had like a kind of hate relationship.
Boy,
but Paul would turn up. Paul would turn up and Paul would compete, and it earned him. He got on the wrong side of Pogo a couple of times and ended up getting a couple of licks, I think, on a couple of occasions.
All them Kent boys, South East England, those guys they really jumped into attack,
Well, and into the Lions Den. I mean, I had a couple of, not falling, but the thing is with that style of DJing or hip hop in general, I mean, you basically compete against somebody. You call them every name under the sun. And then at the end of it, you're meant to be all pally, and it just ain't that simple sometimes.
Get down like that sometimes.
It just ain't that simple sometimes. In all of it, in dancing and graffiti, if you include that, certainly MCing and DJing. The idea is you knock the shit out of each other artistically, but sometimes that crosses over into something else.
Raw emotion,
and Paul, to his credit, I mean, he you wouldn't fuck with Pogo and Billy and them people. And they're old school London people who deal with things on a face-to-face kind of way. Paul put himself in front of Adam's Temper on a couple of occasions. He come out second best, but to his credit, so Paul, First Rate, deserves, with hindsight, a lot more credit, because he was the one that in this country was laying that foundation. Do you know what I mean? And people like Kofi as well at the same time.
Kofi, ooh, yeah.
And you know, and obviously there's the whole era before DJJ, Pogo, Billy, Johnny,
of course, yeah.
Reckless,
Swifty,
all these
yeah.
other guys, Scratch Professor, a lot of people, and Chad Jackson, Macintosh before. So the thing's always been building. I think the time in which we came into it, it will always be probably remembered as that real golden era of things, and a time that people haven't moved beyond yet. So the skills that they learn, if you look at Pickles, if you look at Beat Junkies, and if you look at Executioners, Bulletproof Scratch Hamsters, other people at that time, what they were doing became the new standard,
the benchmark,
from which people learn.
And nothing, like you say, there is generational shifts, but the evolution is it's now reliant on the technology as opposed to what you can do.
I think, it's kind of... I mean,
Here we go.
No, but I still look at these things, and you know what? The kid like Skills who won this year, I think he's a great DJ. I think Yuto's a great DJ. Rainer's a great DJ. K-Swiss, these are great DJs. I mean, they're all great DJs.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go into an anti-tech rant, because I'm not anti.
No. I get you.
I think it's. I think what it is going to enable people to do is going to be fantastic.
That's right,
and
yeah.
certainly within this, but there's a fundamental skill level. I saw an interview with a young guy, Dwells, from New York, who's a really good DJ.
Really, yeah, nice.
And he was talking about his approach to things. And he started with what he considered to be he says the foundation, so Pickles, Executioners, Beat Junkies, Allies. Because they pushed the envelope so far. I mean, and it's as far as 2 turntables and a mixer will ever be pushed. It's not going to be pushed any further than that. And I think where tech comes into it, I think somebody's going to come along that's in complete control of each thing. This is like an analog setup and the digital influence that the tech is giving it.
I see Craze doing that.
I see Craze. I love Craze. He knows. I mean, me and him, we got very drunk a few weeks ago when he was here in London. I always have.
Love him.
I love him as a person. The greatest all-round DJ turntablist of all time.
10%.
I mean, he's that good, and I made a point to him which I don't think he understood. Everybody knows him through his routines, but I spent time with him in Miami with Joel, and he's better than his routines. A routine you put together. What you're working on at that time, certain scratches and the take on the music, but it doesn't mean it's the best of each of these individual parts of what you do. But you put it together in a routine. So you don't scratch solo for 2 minutes, you do 10 or 15 seconds. I spent a lot of time with him in his house in Miami. And Geezer was an animal. I mean, on a whole different level. Would walk out of bed, you'd been up for a couple of hours. You'd wake up in his shorts, come walking in, just do one thing for 10 seconds and shut the whole thing down. You'd just stand there thinking, that's the fucking point. Because he's that good. Because he was that good.
I think his less is more approach to the way he does it. I think it's what keeps the mystique about his sets as being ones to preserve as a time and place, because like you say, if you give him like half an hour to scratch, he will.
Yeah, it's that it is less is more, and I think somebody is gonna one of this new wave of some of these DJs are young. The technology is it will play its role in something. At the moment, I think everyone's thinking, God, I can do so much, but the idea is to do a little bit less.
Yeah, I agree.
So calm everything down, piece everything together in a really coherent way, and it's waiting to happen. I think the best routines that turntablism has ever seen have yet to be seen.
I think you're
I
right.
don't think the foundation's skill set is going to necessarily improve. I think scratching has improved. You look at people like Vect or IQ. These people, in my mind, are phenomenal scratchers.
Yeah, IQ, man, Jesus, seems like anything he does in a hip hop discipline, he tends.
Joel pointed me onto this guy, and I think the first time I saw a video of him cutting, I was like, okay. And then I watched again and again and again, a little bit like Ricky Rucker when many moons ago. But I saw videos of his, and I if I'm right in thinking he was a DJ called Alias many years ago. You know, outrageous scratcher.
Really?
But where I'd taken my eye off the ball, it took me a minute to get my head back into what this cat was doing, and then you see it and think, fuck.
Yeah,
and they had a lot of natural ability comes into it, and so the whole thing it had various foundations over the years. Again, with regards to us, we were lucky.
With the technical side of Scratch, like you say, I think we all do. We duck in and out, and before you know it, you come back, and it's like, whoa, like the levels of. I know there's a practice to scratching, but and of course with every practice, you know, as time goes on, you unlock more doors and more ideas. But is it the difference between night and day, stepping away and coming back, and like 6 months later or a year later, and you're like, Jesus Christ, where did this kid come from? Like, how did he get to this thing?
I think it is. I think for someone that hasn't really practiced, and Joel still cuts, you know, probably cuts nearly every day.
Right.
Scratching was my weakest part of the whole thing, and a lot of people that maybe competed when we did will probably still have a little cut. I never did because it wasn't the thing I was best at, but I'm not going to start trying to come up with routines and that anymore. It's not in my nature now. But you step away from something and step back to it, you always, in my mind, you always see a degree of improvement. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like I
that's interesting you say that. So to go back, you almost reset the bar for yourself, and you come back in with a different perspective. Is that what you mean?
I think you come back in with fairly reduced ability. And first and foremost, scratching. It's a communication between your brain and your body and your hands, and you know this thing. It's repetition. And when I had started having a cut again about a year ago, as I say, I'm never the best scratcher anyway, but I was awful. On that day, everything, it was a muscle memory thing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So there was just certain, it's communication. When you look at someone like Hubert or someone like D-Star.
Oh, it's mad. It's just madness, isn't it?
It is everything. You can almost see the information doing this kind of, it runs up and down the body. So it's from here to the hand responds, and this channel of communication continues. It's like a language, like speaking. When you watch someone or people like that are that good, it's quite literally in their bloodstream. But if you do step away for a period of time, you forget how to communicate with yourself, and I think that's what the difference is for me. I've started trying again, and
scratching and
just scratching. You know, just for the same reason I think I did many years ago, which is I just wanted to. Do you know what I mean? No reason. I ain't looking at doing shit with it, but it was. Yeah, you wake. I mean, I'll wake up. I'll probably have a cut for an hour.
That's amazing.
An hour was a good amount of time. 59 and a half minutes of that are fucking rubbish, but it doesn't really matter. The point is I feel like I'm doing it.
It's like going to the gym, isn't it? It's like, you know,
it's like going to the gym and just watching other people lift weights. That's what it is, really.
There's the commonality, I think, between you and Craze and, that quote-unquote, that golden era of what is turntablism, right? Actually, firstly, before I go into this, who came up with the name Scratch Perverts?
I think I did.
You did, yeah?
Yeah, I remember Theo doing a Scratch Perverts piece around at his gaff one day. I think I kept the name, so I hope I came up with it. Yeah. I mean, the name was just a name, right?
Okay. So, that was just a footnote. What I was coming to was, you hold a very similar presence on stage when it comes to the turntables. More than, sorry guys, but more than the other Scratch Perverts of that time, including myself, I think, and of that time, because you made it seem like effortless, and you shouldn't. It's almost like you. Craze could be anybody in a rockstar world. He just chose to do this, and you held that as well. In my mind, like you could have been a front man of a band or a lead guitarist if you chose. It just felt like it was such a gravitational pull and, oh yeah, I can do this, I'm going to do it. And you made it like a lifestyle almost, the way you kind of
I think
attacked
it kind of became it. I think a lot of it was...
Do you know where I'm coming from, though?
No, I do completely. I think I was honestly full of shit back then, by and large. I do. I think I was a little overbearing in situations where I felt like I wasn't getting my own way. Outspoken, confrontational. Because that whole thing was new to me, do you know what I mean? I'm not a fucking tough guy, none of those things, and all of a sudden lots of good things happen, and lots of stuff happens, full stop. And I think I came across like that. I did come across like that, and I think that led to that kind of impression. But really, I was, looking back on it, just full of shit. I just had a loud mouth to most people. No, don't get me wrong, I was incredibly driven, super passionate.
Incredibly
but when
driven,
I think about the purpose, how I was as a person around it, I was very confrontational, but I'm not. I'm a coward, really. Do you know what I mean? So it's...
I get you.
And this is a nerdy thing. We were all nerdy people. Let's have it right. Weren't like a collection of about 7 or 8 gangsters.
Yeah, but
It
you
was
all
7
look
or 8
rock stars,
nerdy
though.
people. Do you know what I mean? And the rockstar thing, I think that came with that was momentum. Do you know what I mean? And that was what other people were writing. And to be fair, I think some of that probably went to our heads a little bit. Certainly went to mine a little bit. We had really lots of really good stuff written about us, but a lot. I think from looking back on it, how I acted in certain situations was basically, most of these situations I was in for the first time. People were giving you, money to go and do this shit, and it was, and that was it was a real turnaround in life. I'd gone from losing my job because I took money out the till to buy a fucking Tubby Hayes album. People that know me know I did that. I got sacked for that, and I should have done. Went to New York to do a competition.
Yeah.
And all I'd ever done before that was scratch at home and a little bit of scratching and bongo and then deal real. Went out to New York, won this competition.
This was the ITF,
This was the ITF. And even though I didn't feel at the time, that didn't make me want to beat my chest, probably somewhere inside it did, you know what I mean? I come back to London and straight back into Deal Real and everyone was there. People bought cards and stuff.
But perfect segue, right? So we're now into this ITF place, okay? So, because I remember when you came back, and I remember being in the shop, and it was like, if there were flags for sale...
It felt like that, right?
Yeah.
It did, it really did.
As soon as them videos came in, it was like, I want one. And I just remember, right, now, I'm paraphrasing, I can't remember who, maybe even you. There was definitely this feeling that you'd gone to ITF to New York, and the dominance of the American DJ culture was totally like, it was almost like they almost didn't know that this had kind of reached or exported over to the UK in the way it had.
I think so, yeah.
And then here's you, like, dressed way Tony would dress, with the fisherman's hat and the hair down and the rag t-shirt. You could have just as well, been into Nirvana for all they knew.
And was, yeah.
But of course you were. Yeah. But here's the thing: they just weren't prepared for the damage that you caused.
It was, that was, looking back on it, I've said that quite a lot, but I guess we are looking back. But that particular night, I went out there with my mate Del, mixologist came out, wow. Kev, Renegade, he was in it, Kofi was out there as well. And I'd never stepped on a stage before, done anything before, and the advantage in that is the kind of emotion and adrenaline and nothing communicated, right? Because I'd never done it before, so I had no idea how I should feel. Went on stage, did the routine, clear that I was going to win it when I'd finished. Because I wasn't the best scratcher in the world, I tried to put scratching inside of a routine and present that, whereas everybody else put a beat on and had a cut over the top of it. So one thing stood out to the audience, do you know what I mean? I was putting cuts inside of things rather than cutting over things.
Crazy.
It was the only advantage I had, believe me.
But you used your
Doughboy
handicap
was
as a
in
strength.
it. Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Doughboy was in it, Craze was in it. Yeah, a
Doughboy
lot of them
as
kids
well,
were way better than me at cutting. And even in the final, I went against Babu in San Francisco. I fucked it immediately. And I remember on my first routine, I knocked the tone arm off. And I said to the geezer, can I start again? And he's like, nah, dude, there ain't no starting again. And I'm like, all right, okay, so I'm having to try to get everything together again. And the MC of the event's going, fish and chips, mate. All of this shit on the mic, like, you mug.
This is the thing, you forget about this because there's a moment in time where, again, I can picture it. I can picture you there right now, and the silhouette and the stance, and it was almost like the prototype of like what not only Scratch Perverts kind of embodied. It just really became the thing.
Yeah, I mean,
do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I never really saw that at the time, and all I saw at the time was turntables, really. And people like Babu, who I competed against in the final, was a don, a real hero. I mean, out of everybody of that era, this guy was the all-rounder.
100%.
Humble dude, super talented dude, way better than you and all, do you know what I mean? So the way that I lost to him in San Francisco was a blessing, because I fucked both routines up. And I can lie to myself and walk away and say, yeah, I fucked it. But no, it wouldn't have mattered whether I had or not. He would have murdered me because he was that much better. He would, and these things, and it's never, I mean, I knew that at the time.
Which is a very comforting kind of place to put yourself.
You know what?
True,
we
isn't
competed
so
against
good.
the Beat Junkies in the ITF as well as a crew.
Oh, I remember that, yes.
And Little Jazz's crew from Canada.
Little Jazz is a beast.
Yeah, he was a super DJ as well.
Great
right?
juggler. Wow.
But Beat Junkies beat us in the final. It was a close run thing. At the time, I hated it. I never wanted to lose to anybody. But you realise that you're meant to lose to the Beat Junkies. The world makes more sense when you lose. If you win, you'll wake up tomorrow morning, you'll have no idea who you are. The world would have pivoted in the night or something. But if you lose to them, it carries on making sense. You're meant to lose to these people.
I think there's a lot of that in whether it's X Factor or right. There's a I'm being spicy now. There is an element of like underdog winning, but at the same time, there are there's hierarchy and protocol and things that kind of make sense because of it, and you can actually just capitalise on the loss.
Yeah, you know, you can't. It's like that, like Craze, going back to Craze. My mind, he used to like the Floyd Mayweather of this thing. That you can go at him, and think you're doing really well, but at the end of it, realise you didn't land a punch. You know, and I did that in '99. We were all standing there. I'd done my routine and it went clean. And I've come off, and Joel and Mark and Paul are there, and we're like, fuck, I think I might have done this. Might have done it. And anyway, then Craze just started, and we're all standing at the side of the stage. And he started, and I'm like, yeah, I think I got it. I ain't seeing anything here. I think I got it. And he's carried on, and we're all looking at each other like, I think you got it. I said, yeah, I think I got it. And then he did the thing with Terrorist, of had him instrumental, and he did the cutting where he turned around, and we were all just like, oh, fuck. That was the end of that. And you know that was it. And that's meant to happen in my mind, you know what I mean?
These iconic moments that have to...
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's things like that the majority of people will always remember. They probably won't remember my routine, and it's kind of as it should be, because on that particular night, this kid did this thing.
With the needle drop thing as well.
Yeah, I mean, you know, losing sometimes just means somebody else is really very good, and you have to be all right with that. Again, it's that Floyd Mayweather thing where you might feel like you're swinging for 12 rounds, but you got to land something to make it count, you know? We never landed a glove on Craze.
But okay, so the team battles, the Allies versus you guys, where you won.
Yeah.
What was your take on the winning of that?
I was over the fucking moon. I think we won some money as well. We pissed that up the wall in New York. The thing, what made that
was a great
incredible,
trip as well, wasn't it? It was amazing.
In New York, which is a place that I haven't been for a few years, and everybody says it's changed. But anyone that's a hip hop kid, probably from any era, will always look to New York on so many different levels.
I think they still do.
And I still do. From an historical point of view, anything New York City 1970 up to 78, 79, when you look at what made this thing kick off and happen in the first place, New York it will interest me until the day I die, I'm sure of it, from a musical, political and social kind of standpoint also.
100%.
And to be there in 99, to win in 99. I would come out, I was doing this thing, not doing this thing, but MTV asked me to do something on the mic for them. And I walked out of the venue, and there's all the kids that were inside the venue leaving and stuff. And they all started chanting, Vegas, Vegas. Embarrassing to say now, but they did at the time.
That's crazy.
And then a couple of girls were there, and they handed me a flyer for a Disco King Mario memorial, who was an old Bronx DJ.
Right.
I think he died quite young in his life, but I knew the name. I mean, obviously, I'd never heard him. I'd never seen these things. It was kind of pre-internet, so you'd never get a chance to really to hear or see any of the person's work. And I saw that, and it just made this thing a real New York moment. Another part of that trip, there was a Zulu Nation thing somewhere in Midtown. And we went to it, and we're getting the lift down, and someone's like, yo, hold the lift. So we held the lift doors. It was Big L, Diamond D. I don't know if Finesse was with them.
What?
It was a whole digging in the
Definitely
crates crew.
the most hip-hop moment of all time.
Yeah, but Go was there, and we stood, we're kind of backed into the lift, just like... Any minute now, one of us has got to say something.
Yeah.
And we kind of...
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it, and the lift's hit the ground floor. Dave walked out. I think we were left standing there, and the doors just went straight back up again.
Oh,
couldn't
my
fucking believe it.
God.
But that was the time we went up to...
So
there was
cool.
another event up in Harlem, and Digging in the Crates had an album coming, and I think it was years late anyway, but their ads were in all the bus stops on 125th and stuff, and you realise just how important.
And Beat Junkies was always on the radio, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean they were. I mean Beat Junkies as a crew.
Not Beat Junkies, Beat Nuts.
Beat Nuts were always. I mean, being in New York at that time, one of the things I noticed in trips after was that you'd always hear Biggie on every car stereo. Yeah. Always. And I think that doesn't happen anymore. No. People say to me, you don't hear it anymore. But people on a more underground level still had such neighbourhood influence and were seen as incredibly important in their neighbourhoods. Crews like Digging in the Crate. I mean, look at, since Big L passed, just how... I mean, he's like everybody's favourite fucking rapper of all time.
Yeah, that's right.
On such a limited back catalogue. Yeah. But that's how...
That's crazy, isn't it? That's crazy.
Yeah, it is, and it's is that people hope, imagining what his potential was. Do you know what I mean? It's like Biggie. I mean, Biggie didn't put out many records. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Sex Pistols didn't.
No, it's just what you mean to... I've watched over and over again that Biggie freestyle thing in Bed-Stuy in 91. And then you look at his funeral and stuff like that. Just how much... A lot of people... I was never a great big Tupac fan. And somebody made a point I read online that you need to understand just what he meant to the people where he came from.
Which is what hip-hop was
about. And then you realise
that's
that's what hip-hop was about. And that's why people are so revered by their communities. But being in New York at that time, sharing the lift with Digging in the Crates, it was like, fuck me.
Crazy. All I remember of that trip was me and First Rate ducking across the road to McDonald's. I never ate so much McDonald's until that trip.
You ran across the road with First Rate. Where did you think you weren't running across to a gym?
Well, that was a time
were heading
itself.
to the Arches.
Oh, so many stories. Oh my god.
Big up McDonald's.
But yeah,
yeah, it was a good time.
It was a good time.
I just got to get some lip balm.
Yeah, do it.
Lips are going double loud.
Berserk. It was of that time where, and I remember it. Who was I talking to about it? In fact, I don't think I talked to anybody about it. This is the first time I'm bringing it up to you. Actually, I brought it up with you when we did the show together. But I remember coming back from New York, you guys were like, do you want to be in the crew? And I was like, whoa, wicked. Do you want to come to John Pill's 60th birthday party? And then we went and
that meant so much. I've read all this stuff about him lately. Yeah. I mean, John Pill was a god, right? I mean, just that guy that knew so much more about music than you
everyone else. Yeah. I was really green at that stage. I had no idea what I was a part of when doing that birthday thing. I didn't know John Pill like that. I was still like so only hip hop.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I mean, I remember the record store days, and I was just a hip hop kid, hip hop and funk and everything else. But Kev Beadle, Bongo, Nick Huggett, and other people were bringing through some great music. You know, Kevin was always open minded, but I was always like, What the fuck is that? Me and Hugh and everybody was. And that carried on to the point you make about being a hip-hop kid at John Peel's party. Hip-hop kids always consider themselves the most open-minded musically of any music fan because of the origins of hip-hop being a sample-based, well, not the origins being a sample-based music, but samples being taken from all different types of music. We were actually the most closed-minded
100%.
motherfuckers. I wouldn't hear anything. Wouldn't have it.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember I went to buy Smells Like Teen Spirit Nirvana when it came out. I'm pretty sure I left the house in a different fucking outfit. Just so nobody would be like... I think I turned up to HMV in a suit or something.
That's too much.
And bought it. But yeah. I mean, when you came on board, it was... and things were going really good, you know.
Flying,
and you added a dynamic. The point is, everybody at that time added their thing, or it would never have happened in the first place. And that's Harry, Paul, Mark, Kevin, yourself,
Neil.
I mean, Neil obviously. Neil had. I mean, I love Joe to death. Me and Joe were thick as thieves, you know what I mean? I remember the first time I saw Neil, though, was, as I said, in this club in Scotland. And that was... thought either that kid joins this thing or he's going to fuck us up over the next couple of years. Do you know what I mean? Because he was going to. He really was going to. He'd have been 16 and fucking you up. So there was no choice. You got to come. You got to move to London, mate. You got to come down to London and you can be a part of this thing and we'll make it all happen.
Which spawned a friendship and and flatmate.
Yeah,
saga
we moved
of
in together in... the best place we had was on Bethnal Green Road.
100%. I used to love that spot.
The fucking Move Terrace was outrageous.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Neil was an incredibly driven, talented kid, you know, and would have done... Look, whether he'd have moved to London and been a part of what we did or otherwise, he would have gone on to do great things because he was just that guy.
It was at that point with just, you know, and it felt like that was a seminal moment all of a sudden with the John Peel thing back to back with the DMC. It like all of a sudden, like you guys were propelled into, and also I also put it down to the fact that there were so many of you DJing at any one given time in a weekend. The name was like wildfire. One will be playing in Wales, the other will be playing in Cargo, the other one will be playing in Brighton. It
became, I mean, that to have your fingers in that many pies is a really good thing. People knew the people that competed. Because you saw the videos or you went to the competition.
And the personalities as well.
If Scratch Perverts are billed on a flyer and you turn up and you don't recognise the guy DJing, which had happened on a few occasions, then that led to its own, it didn't become a problem, but it became a bit of a thing, do you know what I mean?
Did it?
Like, because Paul, First Rate, Mr. Thing, Prime Cuts and I were the main people competing at that time. So they were the people that people recognised. And if there's 7 or 8 of you, and the other 4 turn up and nobody knows who they are. I mean, it did that. That was on a couple of occasions. It was pointed out by agents at the time that ain't necessarily going to work because people don't know who the other people are.
Yeah.
But the idea was everybody gets brought through at their own speed. Harry was 14 years old, so he was being brought. He wasn't being brought through. He was his own man even at that age, but he was going to get to where he was going to get to in his own time because he was that talented.
Yeah, 100%.
It wasn't made up of, the crew was never made up of people that were all on the same level at the same time. People were going to come through and do their things. And so it was a waiting game as much as anything.
Yeah, that's right. Personalities like the 4 of you were so rich in character when performing. It was a fucking treat when all 4 of you were there just doing it. But this was slowly starting to wean its way out, wasn't it? Like at particular junctures. I mean, I remember doing a couple of shows with you, a couple of shows with Joel, and it was almost like there's the disparity between the crew coming towards the end of that.
I think look, me and Joel were similar as people, which is why we became really good friends. Mark and Paul were quite similar as people.
100%.
Paul was a little energy bunny, but they were, you know, from out of town and quite rabbits in headlights a little bit. And I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way. But me and Joel used to like going and doing a gig, getting fucked up, and so we bonded quite naturally.
In a real kind of lead singer, lead guitarist kind of way.
But it was, you know, in we just like getting fucked up kind of way, you know, and we did, and that was a growing up thing. That's how we grew up. We would, you know,
and part of the reputation of what became like the mystique of Scratch Perverts was this outlawish kind of we're coming into your town and whatever, you never know what might happen. That was certainly like,
it was a part. I mean, it was a part of it. You were looking. I'm going to say looking back again, but that we were super serious about what we did, and I remember the Face magazine wrote this thing that we were the last rock and roll band left in the country, which looking back is muggy. It's like, Jesus, we just used to do what an awful lot of other people did, which is you go out at the weekend and get fucked up, and that was what certainly me and Joel liked. You know, we liked to drink and have a good time and stuff. We just got paid. All of a sudden, we were getting paid to do it. But there were differences in personality. We were all different people. And, you know, Mark was an equal, Paul was an equal. Whether our personalities were the same or otherwise, you came in as individuals.
Yeah.
I mean, Mark, you know, when you used to look at Mark on the cart, Mark was way better than me. Paul had as I said earlier, Paul had put the work in already. Everybody had. You know, everybody came in as equals, do you know what I mean? And I know it didn't end that way, or it didn't come across like it ended that way. But it was the other thing, it was quite a difficult dynamic to book for people. Do you know what I mean? That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people, that's a lot of tech, and it's and it couldn't necessarily carry on like that. Do you know what I mean? It couldn't really carry on like that. It was, we won a world title. That's what the whole thing really was. It was to win a world title, and then, I mean, as you obviously remember how things ended and stuff, and
yes,
it wasn't.
I remember kind of being there. You know, I definitely was there, obviously, but I just remember being a little bit. I felt bad for the immediate heads. Me at the time, I was like, I felt like, the fan me stepped away from the, because I wasn't there long enough, and I was just like, no, like that, you know what I mean? It was just like, wow, like, and I knew I'd be cool. I knew Harry would be cool. Harry was gutted. I could tell Harry was gutted. And,
I think I've spoken to you. You know, we've spoken about this before. And for me to kind of how I see it now. At the time, the whole idea was it was the right decision handled badly, and certainly in the last 4 or 5 years, I've really got to thinking that if a decision is made that benefits you but negatively affects someone else, it can probably never really be the right decision. Do you know what I mean?
Ooh, I like
that's
that.
what I've but I have thought that because it did. We sat down, and again, because I was a fucking arrogant piece of shit back then, it was just like, it's fucking over. I keep the name because I started it, and I did that because I didn't really know how to deal with it. And you know, just even saying that now, and I think I said that's pretty much how I said it on the night. You realise that you were an arrogant mug, and that everybody deserved an awful lot more respect. Everybody, not just certainly Paul and Mark, because they were right there. You know, when we won a world title, that weren't just me and Joel. That was me, Joel, Mark, and Paul. And personalities being different or otherwise, everybody contributed. Everybody contributed. We shared road trips together. Mark, we did the European ITF thing. We all jumped in the car. Mark, we drove to Germany, won the thing, and drove straight home. Do you know? We did all. Everybody contributed. Everybody practiced their asses off. Everybody did, and it doesn't matter who as individuals succeeded more or whose name was in bigger lights. There should have been an awful lot of more shared respect, I think, really, and it, you know, if Mark or Paul or Harry or anyone watched this, I'm not saying any of this for any reason other than we're having a conversation.
It's not the first time
I'm
I've
not
heard you say
reaching
it.
out
Yeah,
to anyone. Everybody has the right to, kick your door in right now. I could walk up the stairs and punch me in the fucking face.
Well, that's we've already talked about that one. That's
yeah,
a different story
we covered
altogether.
that. We covered that earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm 47 years old now, and you can't. You have to.
Yeah.
I'm a human being that thinks regrets are important in life. He's chest beating, fucking. Don't have any regrets and all that. You have to have them, and I think the biggest regrets I have are to do with how I would have treated other people, not to do with money, not to do with fucking career or any of that, but certainly situations where you feel you should have and could have treated people with more respect. I think with hindsight, that's where most of my regrets would have come into it. Wouldn't necessarily have changed anything, do you know what I mean? Scratch Perverts could have disbanded a year later. We could have lost our next competition. The wheels could have fallen off the cart double quick.
Yeah.
You never know how any of that were gone. We had a target on our back after winning anyway.
Yeah.
Me and Joel lost the year after.
Right,
Craze and A-Track smacked us. We fucked it, but they smacked us. So you don't know.
Yeah.
And then there's a thing I was remembering on the way over here. When the year Neil came back in the crew, Neil won the world final. Me, Joel, Infamous and Craze won the team thing. Then we went out to Paris to judge the ITF. Myself, Neil and Joel. And anyone remembers that time and turntablism, the French guys were fucking outrageous.
Mean.
We sat there and we judged this thing and we all we're the champions of the world. And as the whole competition's unfolding, we're just falling back in our chairs just like, oh shit. If we'd have carried on, every one of them would have murdered us. They were that good.
And then you would have just become this heritage kind of DJ collective.
Absolutely. I mean,
touring around the UK.
We won in 2001, myself, Joel, Craze and Infamous. We were way finished at that point. We just talked a load of shit, and this is the thing: you open your mouth, you're going to end up getting in trouble at some point. Yeah, we're going to get together and we're going to beat everybody. And then we'd said it, so that you then had to back it up, and we won that. My personal opinion is we won the competition in 2001 by the skin of our fucking teeth, and that was like, it told you all you needed to know about
where things were at,
where you were at. You quit now, and so speaking to Craze recently, he was talking about, I might come back on this shit. I'm like, dude, you don't. You, of all people, you have nothing to prove, and you really don't want to do that, because if you do that, I can give you a list of names that will come out the woodwork to have it with you. I mean, you're talking Rafik, Netic, and all
that's right.
Everybody's going to gun for you.
Yeah.
There is a chance.
If he can do it, then I can do it.
Will go, and it ain't worth it. You don't have to prove anything, and we knew that in 2001. We were working a lot of clubs and everything. You remember what it was like.
I mean, you had this moment where, just to reiterate back on what you were saying about the disbanding of the crew, it's really interesting. I mean, hindsight, isn't it? But you're right. There was this. It kind of wasn't at its peak. I remember when it was happening. It was kind of. It just felt like there had to be a change. Something had to happen, and it's no different. I think. I mean, the dynamics of any collective is of a band nature. There's always going to be a hierarchy. There's always going to be a favourite. It's quite boy bandish in a way. Do you know what I mean? And no matter what you do, you're just not going to please everybody, whether it's internal or external. It's just, as a fan watching, and it is, for whatever reasons it was, and where everyone's head was at the time. You've just got to go with what your gut was.
I don't remember, very honestly, what my gut was telling me at the time. I don't. Normally, you can have. I remember what most good decisions felt like in my life. The bad ones I seem to have eradicated, you know what I mean? So you can't, it's probably locked away in there somewhere. Yeah. But the point of that is that we had just won a competition. Doors were already open, but we're going to open much, much wider. So the timing of it has to, if I'm being honest with myself about myself, the timing has to be considered a little selfish, do you know what I mean? Because when we went on, Joel and I, and certainly Joel, I and Neil, to do some really good shit. Do you know what I mean? And that was an opportunity that probably should have been afforded to everybody, because everybody contributed getting the name that far in the first place.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're world champions in 1999. The offers come in, and essentially you're saying, I'm having them. Do you know? And that's how it kind of comes. No, if that's how the other guys felt about it at the time, then I have, that's because that's how it come across. It's how it come across. It come across like that, So again, this ain't no fucking great public apology, because none of them would want to hear it. It's not that.
Well,
it's just being honest with
yeah.
yourself as time passes by, and we're in this situation that.
And I like this situation because I've never heard. I mean, rarely do we have Tony having a chat. Do you know what I mean?
No,
So it's really nice. It's really It's
once
really
you
nice.
start with it, you have to cut it
Yeah,
off
no,
sharpish.
it's fucking great. I love it.
I won't fucking stop
I love
bunnying.
it. It's what it's all about. And from that point, there was this you guys had this, between the three of you, there was a real forging of technical abilities. I remember, Joel always had, Prime Cuts, always had this, I knew he was a drummer, which always floated my boat.
Good one.
Yeah.
He was a good one.
But his scratch patterns, it felt like drum solos. The way he attacked the decks. And then obviously there was Neil and the clever conceptual ideas of his sets. And you know what I mean?
Joel, a lot of ability. I mean, to start there, a lot of ability, a lot of good, crazy and very good coherent ideas. I always look. Joel had it in the hands. And Joel had maybe drumming helped with that. The practicing for drumming and stuff. What Joel wanted either hand to do, they would do. It didn't fucking matter. The communication, the natural ability. I mean, he out of everybody as well. But I mean, he had some hands. Neil was a very good all-rounder, but Neil was a great decision maker. I remember there was a production tutorial from someone I rate, and it's music is about making decisions. And that's why I've never finished a piece of music in my life, because I'm shit at making decisions. But Neil was a great decision maker. He would approach a routine and he would have this focus. And he knew the moment he started what the 6th minute was going to sound.
It's so
like.
important when you're doing routines, isn't it? To know when decisions need to be made. And
God, yeah. And he had his watching the World Athletics thing a couple of weeks ago. They talk about people upping their game. So you get to the final, like a short discipline, like 100 metres. You execute the start perfectly. You up your game because you're in the final.
Yeah.
That's a fucking hard thing to do.
Honestly.
It sounds like, of course, naturally, of course I'm going to up. No. It's really hard to do that. Neil upped it. I mean, he had this determination after, I think he lost in the UK. The year that he won, there wasn't anyone on God's earth that was going to stop him from doing that.
no, there was almost like the path cleared. I mean,
it
was just crazy.
He was just that driven guy. I remember Benny, who worked with, obviously mixologist, but worked with Neil on Jack Beats, said that when he used to go around and start working on music with Neil had a synth called the Virus at the time. And he had a whiteboard next to him where he used to write notes to himself. And it was basically all these things that he had to learn. And Benny was like, you walk in the room and it's just like, oh shit. And he would do it. I mean, he would this was about how you become familiar with a piece of equipment. Yeah. He would run through that fucking checklist. I mean, Joel worked hard. Everybody worked hard. But out of the two of them, Neil was that guy. Neil was that thinker. Joel, real natural relationship with scratching, real natural relationship with music, and communicated as a DJ that way. It was a natural thing for Joel. I mean, he put the work in, and you look at the 2 routines where he won the ITF scratching thing. I mean, there's a lot of thought process goes into them, but it's backed up by natural ability.
Privy, only recently actually, to be part of your DJ set, and we're doing our thing. And I'm like, dude, I forget how fucking sick you are at selecting. Scratching, juggling, the works, putting that all aside, like you would say with Craze. Your selection is just like...
So it was a rough night though, wasn't it?
It was a tough one.
Jeez.
It was a tough one, I'm going to lie.
It's the one, right, you reach a time in your life... If I hadn't have had a good 20 years of it, I'd probably lie and say fucking Walthamstow was great, wasn't it? But it was a tough old no.
Yeah,
you have to accept where you are in, not just in your life, but in the lives of others. And
the irony is, we got off stage. And we were like, well, we got off early because literally it fucking clipped for some unknown reason. All of a sudden, it's almost like the date took too long to change the bands that were on. And we go outside and we go to the bar, and next thing we've got a crowd around us. And we're like, well, where were you in there?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Our room's just been shut down.
Yeah.
They shut...
Telling us how great
it's
Heritage was.
Yeah. Oh, you got... Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're playing in there, mate.
So I've reconciled the idea of the compromises you need to make when it comes to earning. Earning a living's earning a living. Like my dad used to graft to earn a living. Earning a living is a priority. So if you can get a couple of £100, a few hundred, do whatever you have to do. Give yourself an amount of numbers on the board by the end of a month, and then you can pay your bills. This is a real life thing now, and you have to do that. But it was nice, you draw in on tunes and stuff, and then I was sitting down, right? I had a little stool because the table was really low, and I've looked up, and literally you're the only other heartbeat in the room. It was like, oh shit,
The only other heartbeat.
yeah, we'll be back next week.
Yeah.
That was it was that's my interest in from a DJing point of view is a lot more that, and it's not. I find myself in situations where I'm playing music that I think the people standing in front of me want to hear. I can do that because I know not one of them people gives a fuck about who I am, and nobody even knows who I am. Do you know what I mean? If you put yourself in an environment that's fairly faceless,
which your DJ culture often is, isn't it?
And it certainly feels a little way. The Scratch Perverts thing will always mean the world to me, and still does. So you approach each of those gigs with a different perspective and maybe a little more integrity. But if I have to play a Sean Paul record in the club to get people dancing and my name isn't above the door, then that's exactly what I'm going to do. And if I didn't want to do that, then I shouldn't put myself there. But that's the trying to earn a living bit. And when I wake up in the morning and you got a couple of quid in your pocket, I can turn my computer on and start again.
And all that good stuff.
And at home I've got the best taste in music in the world. It doesn't mean I'm able to always play that out when I'm out. I don't want to shoot myself in the foot by
You said
doing
something
that.
very interesting before we went on, so I want to recap on it. I'll circle back round because there's a couple of gigs that you and Joel are getting back into and doing. And you said something really interesting. You said that hip-hop, depending on your age group, your background, means so much different things to everybody else.
I think
right?
it was I mean,
as a DJ.
It wasn't like a complimentary observation of people. It was quite the opposite. Hip hop is that kind of thing, right? I played a particular venue, and I was getting approached by certain people. This venue had 90% of a young party type crowd in there, who weren't alive in 2000, literally, let alone hear music from a back catalogue for 25 years before that. People are like, oh, you should play this. Why are you playing that? You shouldn't be playing that. Oh, I know so-and-so from so-and-so. And the bottom line, people are kind of, my take on hip-hop is more right than yours. And there's always been that with hip-hop music and culture. And I didn't say a fucking word. I didn't say anything. What's the point? I'm not going to say, but I'm Tony from the Scratch Perverts. Do you not know who I am? I've never said it in my life, and I'm not going to start. What's the point? Do you know what I mean? The thing is, if I had have said that, these chiefs don't know who I am. If I had have said that, it'd have been like, oh, really? Oh, respect and all of that. But why are you mugging me off just because you have no idea who I am? Why are you trying to impress upon me you're more right about hip-hop than I am? It's that shit. And there's always been that. There's always been that. When that kind of wave of independent hip-hop stuff was starting.
Oh, yeah, the Lord of the Flies effect.
This was so much more hip-hop than that. And... the whole thing with the passing of time just comes across as just fucking ridiculous.
And
really.
genres merge as well. This is the interesting thing. especially, you know what I mean, there's a handful of sins if you put the headphones on my Spotify playlist. You know what I mean? We have them all safely concealed in our heads nowadays, you know. But you know, deep down there are some, you know, some terrible carpet cutters in there. But here's the thing, people's tastes, it's very spread across different genres now. So whatever they value as music with balls or hip hop or rap, it all falls on the same thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this why this stuck out in my mind. We were singing from the same hymn sheet. We were talking about a similar era. I was playing certain records from that time that I thought was going to resonate a little bit easier with a much younger audience. These people, this younger audience, were badgering me for Drake, were badgering me for Cardi B, all of that stuff. I was playing what I thought, whether you heard the records or not, they would feel familiar. Some more obvious records from an older era. So these people that were from that era were trying to say to me, "No, that's that shit. That's that shit. You know, this ain't that real shit." And it's like, I ain't meant to be that real shit. Because none of these people want to hear that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then it's like, guys having a look, you should play that. And just to make the whole situation go away, I was like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I'll do that. And I'll play it. Anything else? Oh yeah, that's a good idea. You fucking mug. It's just like, Jesus. But I mean, hip hop has such a long history now. Do you know what I mean? And I've always really found that argument just fairly fucking ridiculous to be, and even still now, hip hop's changed now. Hip hop's shit now. Not really. No, not really. You know, probably an awful lot of it. Hip hop was, you know, if some of the first records ever, you know, raps committed to record. Sugar Hill Gang, Rapper's Delight. I mean, that was a commercially very successful record. It isn't that hip hop has just become commercial. It had commercial success in the years of its inception. It really did. If you don't like that shit, you really don't have to look at it. It's when people like Scream made a decision to stop making dubstep. People are like, you fucking killed it. You killed dubstep. Not really. He's just decided to do something else with his life. And if you don't want to follow him, have the bollocks to find out a little bit more about this thing that you're beating your chest over and follow other people that are still doing it. So people complain about hip-hop and Cardi B and all those people. If you don't like Cardi B, listen to Rhapsody or Tierra White. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
there's generations.
There are tons of new people making really good music.
100%. That Scream era dubstep, that was definitely like, that leaked through. I know it went into, you know, the dynamics of a Scratch Pervert set. That was, and it was a fabric time. You guys had taken residency there, and you were really cooking. Like every month, you guarantee Scratch Perverts were there tearing it up.
Yeah, you know? Like people like, I mean, Joel was into dubstep real early. I mean, when the music had a real a dub influence and stuff, Joel was all over that shit. And like drum and bass and stuff. One of the reasons that but you're always going to get whinged at if you put anything else in your set other than what people think they expect of you.
Which never made sense to me.
It doesn't. It doesn't. Certainly when you think that, you know, drum and bass, this is a British music, or you put a dubstep record in, this is a British, art form. Or nowadays you play a Dave record, this is you couldn't really be more organic in your celebration of like homegrown talent and scenes and genres and movements.
And identifying yourself, especially within the era of like that turntablism world, you know, I mean, you're crazy going and doing drum and bass sets. You know?
But we were in the company of these people. In the company of them. You're in the company of them. So like Scream was a young lad and you're in the company of him.
DJ Hyde, they were all there.
You're in not the inner circle, but you're seeing things really firsthand and exactly what it means to them. So one of the first times I think I got to know Andy C. however many years ago. I was not a drum and bass kid, you know what I mean? But when you see someone like that tear the arse off of somewhere and you're standing this close to it, all of a sudden you start thinking, fuck me, there really is something in this. And the same thing happens where people... If you then start incorporating that into your sets, people see it as a shift. It isn't a shift. All of this stuff happened really organically. We were in the company of these people in their work environment, watching this shit tear the arse out of clubs. And you thought, I fucking want a bit of that in what we do.
See, that's what I'm saying. I think that was I believe in terms of like Scratch Perverts, that was a kind of golden era because it just felt like you guys had this. I didn't know where it was going. I think in my heart I wanted it to go further into more other planes, but there was an incubation that was forged with being at Fabric so frequently. And like you say, now I understand how these influences slowly came into the mix because you were literally next to them every
If you look
week.
at Fabric as that kind of the meeting place, really, when it became such a home. Yeah. Home became a home from home because Fabric actually became home. Do you know what I mean? I'd get down on a Friday night, I'd walk out on Monday sometimes.
Wow. Shit. Whoa. What the fuck? That's crazy.
But you could, and that was the thing. And then people are coming in, and artists are coming in, and the whole thing was. I think it was such a vehicle for us, and such an important ally, such an important platform. Greatest club, in my opinion, in the world ever.
100%.
They put so much confidence in us, and we did our beatdown nights where we could select some. Anybody from Ian Brown to Dizzy Rascal. I mean, we had Fabric was kind of it. That was our career. From when it started, kind of to when things started getting slow
the journey,
for us.
Right? Yeah.
It was a kind of 14, 15 year block that really had its foundations in playing Fabric once a month.
Yeah, it's crazy.
People like, you play Fabric, so and you were getting bookings.
That was a big thing,
on the back of playing Fabric. Yeah. So it worked, and looking at it, that seemed to be all the highs and all the lows, the starting of something towards the end of something. It happened during that 15, 14 year kind of Fabric residency point of view.
How did you feel about Neil +1 starting Jack Beats? We mentioned it a little bit.
At the time, you're my friend. You're meant to be working with him. Look, Neil. I will always consider a tremendous talent. So if Neil's going to put his heart and soul, his passion, his time into something with somebody else, that was going to end his relation. Professionally, things were going to change, and I knew that was coming, and that was uncomfortable. It felt uncomfortable at the time, but I loved Neil very much, and you want anybody that you have genuine feelings for to do their thing and run and do it to the best of their ability. Our unique selling point, according to some people, was the fact that there were 3 of us, and then it went back down to 2 of us.
It doesn't feel like that.
That was an agency perspective.
I think
agents have a perspective on things, don't they? Which is it doesn't exist within the normal world, really.
Well, it's called excuses.
Well, it's called get out, you're finished. That's what I mean. We it does. Yeah, I was happy that Neil was happy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And was what he was doing musically, was that going to represent the sound that Scratch Perverts was going to represent? Probably not. It had to have a different home. It blew up because Neil was a very talented kid and Benny's a very talented kid too. So it was always going to do well. And then what do? You tell somebody to work really hard at something, but they're not allowed to take advantage of it. Go and do it, brother. Man. Go and do it. Yeah. Go and do it.
Sometimes you got to let a swan be a swan.
Yeah, you know what, and you really do. And we had a long time together. I love Neil to death, and it will always be a friend. I love Joel to death, always would, always be a brother and everything else. But there was a professional foundation and basis for all of our relationships. Yeah. So if there will be a change professionally for 1 or 2 of those people as time passes on, you have to expect that and say, go for it. Do you know what I mean? It was... It felt uncomfortable at the time because we were beginning to struggle anyway, you know. So, so for purely personal, professional, selfish reasons, it was like, don't go.
I'll throw that in as well,
go. Don't go. Don't go, what about me? But yeah, look, I'm glad he did what he did, and he did really well with it.
Yeah, you did I can't remember when it was, but there was a show that you and Joel did, and I was really taken aback by. It was almost like because I hadn't seen you guys for like 3 years, at least, post Neil leaving, and just coming back and seeing you guys, it was almost like the next day. Do you know what I mean? And what's exciting for me now, and I know this is not in any way a planned thing, because Tony doesn't really do plans like this, but I love the fact that I'm seeing flyers with Scratch Perverts, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there were always flyers with our names on them. They're often in the fucking bin. So you'd never really see them.
But the cycles come back round.
But we're doing Chip Shop, which is an opportunity to play good music.
Yeah.
To play good music. To play good music. To play music that undoubtedly someone in the crowd will dispute and say, yeah, but mate, interested. I like these damn records. These records I buy. Incredibly important artists. I want to do a little kind of public, and I personally want to do a little Public Enemy section, a Wu-Tang section of not necessarily Cream and everything else, but slightly kind of faster records. I mean, I've been putting a lot of work in already. One thing I've noticed about myself is that I'm not necessarily the best decision maker when I'm out. I like to practice a lot and work out what record A is and what record B should be. If you're taking the time to put two records on top of each other, you should make sure that they go well for one reason or another. When you're out and in a club, if you're making those decisions on the fly, it's all just about what's going to get the next big reaction. It's not necessarily about does record A and record B go together. Yeah. So I'm trying to make a lot of those decisions now before getting down there. So I know if you're going to hear record A, the record to mix record B is going to be a good mix, even though they're only 8-bar mixes. And we're going to work on some skill things to take down there as best as possible, because I know the setup's quite awkward. Yeah. So nothing too complicated based on the idea that you might not be able to do it anyway. Yeah. But it is nice. That's a nice opportunity. That's a nice opportunity just to go and have a good time.
Good time, isn't it?
And that's what it really comes down to now. We take offers. You know, me and Joel are open to work offers. We are. If they come your way, they come your way. And if they don't, they don't. It's... I would like to be busier maybe, but this is how things kind of should be. Yeah. This is how things should be. If you speak to anyone under the age of 20 that's into hip-hop in this country, they're going to give you a list of names that we're not on, because that's kind of how it should be. They're going to talk Stormzy, they're going to talk Dave, they're going to talk... You know, all of these sorts of names, because this is how it should be. 20 years ago, everyone would have said Chester Farmer, Skinny, Kalashnikov, Chest. Everybody would have said the same names, because this was music made by your peer group, presented to you as their peer group, and you share this moment in time with each other. If you ask kids about turntablists nowadays, they're going to say K-Swizz, Renegade, they're going to say these names. That's how it should be. Yeah. If you ask anyone under the age of 20 who's your favourite turntablist, and they say my name, you should give them a fucking clap, because they're getting it wrong. Do you know what I mean? It should be... The moment and the time is so important in how things move forward. I ain't going to move it forward. It's people with much younger age than me are going to move things forward. It's important.
And we've talked about this, like, particularly with the podcast thing, as this new conduit that I've moulded to kind of fit what my skill sets are, and perhaps stretch them a little bit more. There's always time for that.
Oh yeah,
right? You just got. It's just a case of like finding that time to take it.
Could I contribute again? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I will. I probably fucking not. But that doesn't mean that I couldn't.
Right.
But the important thing is to be a part of the conversation as it's happening.
That's it, yeah.
And that's all you should hope to contribute. And if it's worth remembering, it will be remembered. And if it's worth being looked at by a generation maybe that follows you, then it will be looked at. You know, there's no shortage of respect within the younger generation of tablists towards old tablists.
No, there isn't. Same with beatboxing. It's pretty crazy.
People respect people, so you contribute to the conversation at that time. You hope that what you're saying is going to get heard, and that should be the height of your aspiration. And that isn't a low ceiling on ambition. It's far from.
No.
Contribute to the conversation at the time. I still. I think if I shouted loud enough, I could still be heard. You know what I mean?
Hell fucking yeah!
But it's.
Hell yeah!
Am I going to do that? Should a kid like Skills won the DMC this year. He won it the year before. That go and have a look at him. Do you know what I mean? Respect the fact maybe that I did what I did when I did it, but this is your world champion, ladies and gentlemen. So go and have a look and see his take on things, because he is going to push the envelope forward, not me. Do you know what I mean?
You.
And I think
I
that's
get
important. And I think it's the same with. But that's why that whole kind of hip hop thing. You know, people talk of golden eras and what hip hop actually meant and what it didn't mean and what it does mean, and that's not hip hop. This is. It's the equivalent of me as a father telling my daughter her skirt's too short when she's leaving the house to go out. It's the same as that.
What a great analogy.
Hold those thoughts and feelings to yourselves. Let young people be young people and do their thing. As 100 years passes, you'll realise they can contribute just as much as you did.
Yeah, but sometimes you got to push the envelope. Yeah, I feel it. I feel exactly what you're saying, and it's being part of the conversation. It'd be it's interesting because I see Joel Plime Cuts down at DMC. He's active in, judging and being a part of it. I don't see you, and I know there's probably your own reasons for that. And but doesn't it for an example? Surely it must feel incredibly obtainable, bearing in mind that you came in at the same time as Craze. Craze don't do too much judging. Who goes and does showcases? That must totally flick your switch in the fact that he's still as relevant and able to navigate himself within a scene with such relevance still.
Oh, because like we said earlier, he's that fucking good. Yeah. I mean, winning 3 world titles in a row, that's what that is. It's a wonderful achievement. He is that good. He is that good, and he has used the fact that people respect that. I mean, you ask 99% of the people who's the greatest of all time, it's Crazy. So that gives him a bargaining chip for various situations. But again, speaking to him when he was over, it's not all been plain sailing. But Crazy's quite driven like that, and I'm not. There's an age difference between us. Music will always be, other than my daughter, the most important thing. Alongside, I'm not taking anything away from my daughter, alongside my daughter, music will always be the most important thing. Do I like listening to music at home more than I do playing it out? Yes. If I have a scratch at home for an hour, that doesn't mean I then have to do it when I'm next in public. Do I like turning my computer on and trying to make music and realise it's probably something I'm never ever going to master, because I'm not. That decision-making process has been wiped out of my brain over 20 years of abuse.
And the team aspect, when you've got someone like, Mr. Thing or Harry Love, who's proficient at making beats, and then you've got Neil, who's a decision maker, and you've got Joel that you can stand pillar to pillar with in a kind of adding embellishments into the. It kind of removes you from the decision making, and it allows you to be that creative. Yeah,
it
journeyman.
did. It's. I mean, when people have asked me about what we did and that, my line always is, we did what we did when we did it, and I'm very happy with what we contributed. I'm very happy with the years that followed. There were gigs I turned up inebriated to over the years, and there were gigs I turned up to sober. I was very honest about all of it, and I loved every second of it. Do I think that the name Scratch Perverts, regardless of how I may be sounding, this is not a dead and buried thing. It's not at all.
No.
But you have to keep moving forward. You have to keep pushing the envelope, and it has to be your name that's written across the front of it. It has to be. I'm not that person right now. Do you know what I mean? I'm not. I love my life today as much as I've loved it in the last 10 years. Do you know what I mean? It's not. It was always so intertwined with a career and
how
everything.
you were doing in your life in general.
And now, the career and life and who I was all the same thing, and it isn't. I'm Tony. And
Tony fucking Vegas, come on.
Tony, just Tony. I'm not going to say my real surname, but it's nice. It's that I like me. I like my life. I like the people I have around me, and I've an awful lot of people around me I love, and we have a good time, and our lives, as it were. But I don't. It's not so. It was just career. It was the only thing I could see. The only thing that meant anything. It was all about that. You know, lost relationships over it and everything else. Undercommitted to people. Because it was all about work, right? It was all about me, right? And that's kind of how I felt for many years of it. You know, I'd missed my daughter's birthday on occasions and
Things
stuff
like
because
that.
I went and done a gig and got fucked afterwards because it's all about me, right? And, you know, you make those decisions at the time. And maybe that says to me that I couldn't do both things.
Yeah,
you know?
I get it.
I can either be me as I think I am as a human being, or I can be that person that was doing all that shit. I don't think necessarily both things can exist, right? Enough hours in the day.
Yeah, that's
Do you know what I mean? You can't be sober all day long and pissed at the same time.
Yeah,
you can't.
right. No, that's right.
So,
As much as we try.
as much as we try, yeah. I did have a few 25-hour days in my time, but look, life is a lot.
And it
full of that
sounds
kind
like,
of
you know, with all the best that could essentially be on its way, you've loved it up until now.
I love it. The thing is, I started buying records. I was a hip hop kid. Do you know what I mean? Me and my friends, the people used to go to the bank down in Walthamstow on a Saturday afternoon. They had a big marble floor outside the Midland Bank at the time.
We talked about this because we were just down there.
We were just there.
You actually pointed
Everyone
out
used to go there and dance and stuff rather than Covent Garden and things that being from East. That made more sense. A fan first and foremost. It doesn't matter. Earning a living out of your passion can distort that. It does.
100% always.
But music means as much to me today. It's not necessarily the same music. I'm not necessarily hearing it in the same way. It means everything means exactly the same as when I first loved it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
100%.
The pinnacle, all I ever wanted to do was work in a record shop. That was it. Yeah. We were lucky. We were really fortunate to do the things that we did afterwards. Working in a record shop was as good as you could ever hope.
Yeah, it was the high echelon of, you were the gatekeeper of people's entertainment.
And then I worked in, what's been considered as probably the best record shop of all time.
Yeah,
Bongo.
that's right. 100%.
And I fucked that up. So,
So
onwards and upwards.
Well, look, I feel like I've, circling back around it nicely, I feel like it's been a lot more question and answer for me because as a fan, and I know there'll be enough people out there that would have massively appreciated this conversation purely on the basis of honesty, getting to know, retrospect, and what the future's doing. And just thank you as a fan, bro, for coming through and chatting.
It's a real pleasure. It was good question and answers because that means you can cut out after the bollocks that I come out with. I was sitting here for the moments there towards the end thinking, fuck, you don't shut up. Shut up, man.
No, man.
Shut up.
He thinks the best podcast.
Shut up, brother. Stop talking.
As long I always worry that as long as there's no one listening to the podcast at 3:30 at night driving back from a really tired gig or something, because I do believe my voice will make them fall asleep at the wheel.
There'll be some deaths at the wheel if they catch this one at 3:30 in the morning. It really will be. But thank you. It's always a pleasure to be in your company. So.
Bro, thank you so much. Thank you.
Sorry, that was just down.
Thank you.
Down there, don't worry.
Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, Killa Kela Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and all that good stuff. Tony Vegas, Scratch Perverts inside the ride.
Thank you.
You stay lucky, people. Don't talk to any strange women. All right. Peace.
Stay lucky.